Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Today is Memorial Day Celebration 246. And our call-in number is 646-200-4169. And we had a little difficulty getting on. I don't know if it's too close to the time that one show ends and one show begins, but it did it to us again today. So if you're trying to get into the chat room, maybe hit refresh and try it again. And we do have David and Tim already with us. And welcome, Michael.
Thank you,
Michael.
sweetie. Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Good morning. Welcome, David, Terry. How are you gentlemen today?
I'm well.
Good,
Likewise.
good. Awesome. Well, our invitation for Memorial Day, Veterans Day, is an invitation to consider being part of a team that changed the world by putting an end to war. And how are we going to do that? Well, here's my request, and I will comply. Today, I'm going to invite you, if this is your first time on the show, if it's not, then you've had this invitation before, to join us in healing the dynamics of hostility and fear in the world. Now, of course, the dynamics of hostility or fear do not exist in the world. They only exist within the individuals in the world. But there's a problem, and that is that most everybody has somebody to blame for the hostility or fear they have in them. They actually believe that the hostility and fear that they're experiencing within themselves is caused by someone else, an insane thought. And so what we're looking to do is to support the changing of that dynamic by inviting every person on the planet who has any form of hostility or fear to stop playing the projection game, to stop playing the game that it's all somebody else's fault, and to begin to own, if there's hostility or fear in you, your hostility and fear. And then take the next step of removing it. Well, gee, Michael, that sounds great. How do you remove it? Well, actually, there's a very, very, very simple process for removing it. It's called forgiveness. It comes out of the ancient Aramaic language. And it is a tool which shows us how to remove what never belonged within us. Of course, as long as you're stuck in the game that somebody else did it to you, you can't change what's going on inside of you. But once you recognize that it's yours, you have the option of throwing it out. And that worksheet process is about how to throw it out. So if you go to our website, www.whyagain.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. And if you would just click on that link, the first 4 items in that section will give you the whole set of tools of forgiveness and how to change what's happening inside of you. The tool that was disappeared almost 2,000 years ago is freely available on our site. We're here to support you in learning it and applying it in your life every day of your life. So welcome to the show, everybody. Once again, welcome, David, Terry, Jeanie. Welcome, Jeanie, back to Florida and warm weather, and we're delighted that you're here. Do you have anything to share with us? The whole audience, of course, on a daily basis has been holding you in the space with all that you've been going through up in Bristol, Tennessee with supporting family. And so do you have anything to share with us?
No, not necessarily. I don't think I'm at that space yet to share that. But if somebody else is listening and you're an Earth Angel radio host, you keep bumping me out when you're trying to sign in. So I'm unable to stay into the chat room. They keep saying somebody signed in and bumped me out. So whoever that is, please sign in under another name instead of under the Earth Angels host, because you are kicking me out and I can't control the board. And I would appreciate that. And it's good to be back in Florida.
Cool. Awesome. Do we have any, of course, I guess if you're getting kicked out, it's kind of hard to tell if there's anybody in the chat room or with any questions or anybody on the phone. Our phone number, by the way, is area code 646-200-4169. We would invite you to call us. We would love to hear your questions. We would love to connect with you directly. We would love to respond to any questions that you have and support you in getting to the other side of any kind of blame game that you may have played or may currently be playing around the idea of forgiveness. And as you change that, we change the world. And that's what we are here to do, to support you in changing the world. So any callers, anything happening in the chat room, Jeanie?
There's several people both in the chat room and on the switchboard, but nobody has their hand up. So if you want to talk to Michael, press 1. That puts you in queue. And we're glad you're listening with us today, too.
Well, I'm here,
Absolutely.
and I can report that I did the sermon yesterday at the Unity and did the big chunk of your lecture, Purpose, Personal Power, and Commitment, how to create and then pursue your secondary purpose. And it was very well received, good responses, lots of people coming up to ask questions afterwards, so they've all now gotten pointed to your website and your worksheet for that purpose. So thank you for that material, and I just wanted to let you know that it was presented again yesterday.
Fabulous. Very cool. Let's join in supporting each other and being on purpose. And, of course, one of the points out of that workshop is that energy systems, which is what we are, don't bring through more energy by efforting. They bring through more energy by aligning. And as we align with our true purpose, both our primary and secondary purpose, there we are. And so do you have the presentation on your website yet, Dr. Tim? Is your mute button on?
Are you there?
Hello. I'm here, yes.
Okay. Yes, it's up on the Unity website, and I'll type that location into the chat room. It's unitywoodstock.org.
unitywoodstock.org. Cool.
And they have
put it on your site?
Yep. When I get the time to get it downloaded and uploaded, I'm in the process of redoing my whole website, so it's going to be in limbo for a little bit. But it is available through Unity of Woodstock.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we certainly appreciate all that you do to put it out there and support the work. And, of course, we are here to support you and the whole planet in this process of learning to move through what never belonged in a human system in the first place. Are there any questions, Jeanie, anywhere? If not, I've got a topic I'd like to kind of move into.
No, there are no questions, so go for it.
Okay, well, you've heard me say before that I appreciate one thing about the Greek stand in the world, and, there's a lot that I don't appreciate in the fact that they through Constantine, took basically everything that Yeshua said and turned it on its ear. And Yeshua, if he went into most churches today, would say that's all Greek to me, because it is Greek fear-based philosophy. But there's a piece that I actually just recently had, the insight, and gained another level of appreciation for one piece of their understanding when they said, guard the portals of the mind. And I've always put that forward as, be careful what you let in. But for me, a new insight was to realize that not only what you let in, but what you let out of your mind, the portals of your mind, and to recognize that, it's such an important point to realize that the mind is an evidential device. And when you hold a goal, you set your mind up. There's some interesting Harvard research that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire, the max amount of information that goes into conscious awareness is 9 bits of data. 9 out of 10,000 is all you get to see. And the estimate is that there are approximately 20 trillion bits of data potentially available in that same time frame, which is about a 25th of a second. So when you're looking at 9 bits out of 10,000, something selects which 9 bits of data you get to see, and the output of your mind is based upon that something. That something that determines which 9 bits of information your mind uses is your goals. And so not only what you receive do you have to be aware and careful of what you allow into your mind. You look out, and there is more and more technology being developed every day to take over people's minds and to put into their minds what someone else wants them to hold as true. But on the other side, being aware that according to your goals, there's actually a great line in the Course in Miracles that says, you must become aware of the distorting power of the way you want it to be. And when there's a difference between the way you want it to be and the way it is, or the way you perceive it, that's stress, and it's created by goals. And to be really careful what the goals are, especially the unconscious goals. We have goals that come from generations and generations of genetics. We've invited everybody to jump on our site and go to the link that takes you to a video, which you can watch free online, called The Ghost in Your Genes. And they're showing that all kinds of energies are passed from generation to generations, which, of course, we knew based on the Aramaic physics and genetic language of the man named Yeshua. But taking it to another level to recognize that we have genetic goals. If we have people who've been in pain and trauma in past generations, those goals can be passed to us. And according to the way that our mind works, once one of those goals is activated, the only data that will become available will be the data that justifies the position of accomplishing that goal. And it can be insane. And I just take on a whole other level of appreciation, one, for the Greeks in coming up with that one, and two, for the man named Yeshua who said there is a law of perception. And that law is the first law that every human being needs to be concerned about. And that law says you must have love when, in essence, when you look at any object of attention in order to maintain your human life. So when the Greeks translated love God, love neighbor as self, for upon this hangs the law and all the prophets, Yeshua says, maintain the condition of Rakhma, of love in your mind, when you have an object of attention such as the Creator or neighbor, and neighbor means anybody that you think is self, and by so doing, maintain your human life. If you don't do that, then what will happen is your mind will hallucinate evidence. It will take whatever it's got, and it will turn it into a reason to accomplish that goal, even if the goal is insane and goes totally against your life purpose. The way that you can tell, and it's such an important key, and you've heard me say before, several months ago I was reading or watching, I think it was a television show. I'm not sure now. I don't really remember, but the basic point was this person was saying, what a bunch of idiots following a guy who would tell them to love their neighbors. Man, how dumb is that? If he only had a clue what he was talking about. The man named Yeshua was telling us the key to keeping a sane human mind and keeping our lives on track. And it's got nothing to do with the Creator, and it's got nothing to do with your neighbor. It has to do with the first law of a human life, how you maintain a human life. And you maintain a human life by keeping this filter Rakhma, and that word has been translated as love by the Greeks, but it isn't love. It would be more properly translated as intentional love. It's a filter over intentions. And so when we maintain that, when we become absolutely, totally, completely 100%, 10,000% eternally committed to living that first law, we get to have a human life, and we get to be sane. If you allow your mind to break that law, that is, you have a goal that links to some form of hostility or fear, and you function out of that hostile or fear-based mind, you're stuck in a total fabrication, a total hallucination that will guide you to do all kinds of crazy things to destroy yourself, destroy another, and to destroy your life. So the genius of guard the portals of the mind, both input and output, and then the genius of the man who knew the key. You've got to maintain a condition in your mind. If you don't have that condition in your mind, make no decisions, do nothing, say nothing, become mum. Restore the condition of love to your mind first, or your mind will go off on any kind of a tangent. And, you know, one of the things that's kind of difficult to do once you speak a word is to take it back. And so many people allow themselves to fall into hostility or fear, and by so doing, say some of the most vile things to each other because they've broken the first law, the law of sane human perception that maintains a human life. So if you notice the output of your mind heading in some form of into the direction of something other than love, some form of hostility or fear, just be aware that there's your next piece of forgiveness work to do. In order to dissolve that hostility or fear, you go through the forgiveness process, and again, go to whyagain.com, right-hand side, download worksheets. First 4 links will give you the whole story, how to forgive, if you don't know how. There are 2 audio tracks there that will walk you through step by step by step the forgiveness process. And when hostility or fear comes forward, if you forgive before you make any sort of decision at all or attempt to make choices, you restore the condition of love to your mind. You've restored sane perception. Now move forward. So that to me was kind of a new level of understanding of that whole thing, and I just throw that open for discussion. If anybody has any thoughts or questions about that, Jeanie, David, Tim, or any callers, our calling number is 646-200-4169. We would love to hear your sweet voice and your thoughts about what I've just said or anything that you're confronting with the work that you're doing.
Well, I have just gotten bumped out again, so whoever is trying to sign in as a host, please sign in under a different name because you're knocking me off the board. And it pops up and it says another host has signed in, you've been disconnected. So whoever's trying to sign in as Earth Angels Radio, please sign in under another name. We love you listening to our show, but you're kicking me off the board and I can't control it.
So if you would, if you're signing into our website, our radio website, and you're a host with Earth Angels Radio, could you please pick another sign-in or just go in as a guest? Because Jeanie can't operate the switchboard if she can't stay signed in. And somebody who's a host, because you have to have special passwords and all, somebody is kicking her off. So we'd ask you to do that. So Jeanie, Tim, David, do you gentlemen have any comments or thoughts about what I've just put forward?
Well, I especially like, ever since I first heard you talk about the idea of needing to keep that condition of love in the mind for clarity of perception, and that my perceptual mind is the light for my earthly life. And I use for myself the example of if I'm driving down the mountain road at night and my headlights go out, I don't just keep driving thinking, well, I seem to remember a left turn coming up in another 30 feet. I hit the brakes. And so what I've been trying to do for the past 7 or 8 years since I've encountered your work is daily, multiple times a day, remind myself to monitor how I'm thinking and feeling for the signs that there's anything less than love going on. And if at all possible, whenever I notice anger, fear, sadness, frustration, confusion, I just stop whatever I'm doing. And at the very least, take a few deep breaths, and often add to that the EFT tapping procedure. And if time allows, I make a note about what I want to do worksheets on later, or I actually pull out a worksheet, the reality management worksheet process, and do that. Because, again, as you point out in your workshops, often you ask people to think about something they did in the past that they regret, and then simply go back to that moment when they did it and remember what they were feeling at the time. And without fail, the emotion that's going on when people do the things they regret is anything but love. It's anger, fear, sadness, confusion. So there's practical demonstration for me in my life that all that can lead to is regret. Anything I do from that state can only do what it's always done in the past, which is lead me to do things I regret. So I thank you for that insight years ago when I first heard your 4-hour CD, and I keep trying to practice it every day, because even within the past year, it's very clear to me that the only things, what few things have happened that I hold any regret for, are things that happened when I was in a state of sadness, anger, fear, frustration, hurt, confusion, blame. So that's my input.
Awesome. And, of course, the question comes for many people, well, gee, how do you do that? Well, the best way I know to restore that condition of love in your mind is to close your eyes and then imagine holding a newborn child. And as you hold that newborn child, you look into that newborn child's face and you smile. As you smile, allow that smile to send an energy that warms the frontal lobes of your brain. Literally, imagine from your smile that energy is moving up to your brain. And what that will do is that will activate Rakhma in the frontal lobes of the brain, that allows the mind to only use intentions keyed to love as raw material for its goals. And the first law in this genius who understood how the mind worked was, you've got to keep this perceptual filter active. Otherwise, if you don't, then you'll go into the hostility or fear filter over intentions. And the hostility filter over intentions means that any intention that you can have awareness of will be based in something destructive. When fear is active, any intention will be based in something negative. And so the quality of your intentions, because intentions are the raw material of goals, this is something we go into in our Getting the Stress You Need workshop. If you want to watch a DVD on that, Getting the Stress You Need looks at this filter system. And there is a worksheet or a piece on the website under download worksheets for the Getting the Stress You Need for these filters. And so when we have this filter active, because our intentions are loving, that will become the primary activator of an intention over perception, which is keyed to love. And when our perceptions are keyed to love, then we have the highest and best output for our minds. And just to see the effect of that, just a real simple example is, you've got somebody and you say to them, I love you, I cherish you, I honor you, I will love you forever. And then somebody down the block calls you and, really resonates some rage and fear in you. So your rage and fear is active. How many have turned to that person that 2 minutes before you were saying, I love you, I cherish you, I honor you, I love you forever, and all of a sudden find a reason to be hostile or fearful with them? They've lost Rakhma, and now the perceptual mind. What happens, there's a chain of command in the way the mind works, once you've got an hostile intention, then the filter that's active over perception is hostility. And through hostility, all the mind can show you is something threatening, something irritating about the object of your attention. So you look at this person and just think about it. When you're enraged, do you see the things that you love about this person that you say, I cherish you and will honor you forever? No, they disappear because the filters change. And through those filters, you get a certain quality of output. This was understood in the Aramaic 2,000 years ago. It's so awesome. So when hostility is the active filter over intentions, then hostility is the active filter over perception. And what the mind will do is it will select data from its perceptual store of information that will show you something irritating about your object of attention. So we go into irritation. If the active filter over intentions when Rakhma is lost is fear, then there'll be negative goals. When negative goals develop, then, or I should say negative intentions, which lead to fear-based goals. And when fear is the active filter over perception, then our mind will only be able to use data that will build a reality that shows us something threatening about our object of attention. And it's just the way perception works. And the fact that, you can look, I challenge you to look all over the globe today and find that piece of information aside from this ancient psychologist named Yeshua, popularly known as Jesus. His name was not Jesus, a copy of the Greek god Zeus. His name was Yeshua. He understood this. He showed us how perception works. He was teaching us tools for life. He wasn't teaching us theology or religion. And when you get to the actual meaning of his words, it's just so awesomely powerful. It's mind-boggling. Jeanie, any thoughts come forward for you?
Well, I had what I thought of was yesterday on one of my flights here, I was speaking to a gentleman, and he asked, why I was coming to Florida. Was it business or pleasure? And I said yes. And then we just got to talking, and he had just finished an Emmaus walk, and it wasn't with his church, it was with another church, but he was talking about the awesome experience that he had with that, and how just within a few days, this was actually like in September, but within just a couple of days of him finishing the walk, he said that he and his dad had a really bad relationship, that, when he was growing up, his dad was an alcoholic, he was abusive, he cussed, he was just horrible. And as soon as he turned 17, he joined the service and got out of there. And just went in from one anger mode to another. But anyway, then years later, his parents had what they considered, I guess, an accident child or whatever. So there was like a lot of years difference between them. But his sister, by the time she came around, his dad had cleaned up his act and was going to church and was, an upright citizen and everything. And so their realities of the same father were opposite ends of the spectrum. And that he had never been able to, as the culture says, quote unquote, forgive his father for the way that he had raised him. And his dad had gone into sort of a coma after he had brain cancer, and had gone into a coma and had been totally unconscious. And the family was like, should we call him in? And they were like, no, he's where he needs to be right now. And so they left him alone. They didn't call him in to see the dad or anything. And they said that he hadn't spoken in like 4 or 5 days. And so this guy comes in from his Emmaus walk and goes in to visit his dad in hospice. His dad opens his eyes and says, how was the walk? And they were able, his dad stayed conscious enough, they were able to clean up like so much, because this guy learned that the anger he was holding was inside of himself. And that, his dad had made some mistakes, and his dad had, not been the best example that he needed or anything like that, but that he had been looking at his dad through his own anger. And through this experience that he had, he learned how to do real forgiveness. And so he and his dad were able to really have a conversation, clean things up. And then his dad went back into a coma and then slipped out of this realm. And so we were sharing that on the airplane, and he was telling me all about that and just how the different realities that he and his sister had and how amazing that was, that people could have a whole different perception of what was going on from what was actuality. And so our conversation fit in perfectly with what we do. And it was a real nice spending of the time on the airplane. But it was to see someone else that wasn't familiar with this work to actually come to the point of realizing that it was an internal process. Michael, your speaker's not on apparently.
Oh, excuse me. I say it sounds like you were given a custom seat on that airplane. You hadn't shared that with me, of course, with as little time as we've had, but that's pretty powerful to have the opportunity to have that kind of conversation and to see that happening. That's just awesome. There's a very powerful film out there that you might find interesting, on the topic of the Emmaus Walk. It isn't specifically focused on the Emmaus Walk, but in Spain there is a walk that people do, walking, I don't remember all the details of it, but Emilio Estevez and his father, fill me in, Jeanie, what's his dad's name? Do you remember, Jeanie? Your mute's on.
Martin Sheen.
So they created a film, and it's just been out in the theaters recently, which Jeanie and I went and saw it a few weeks ago, and it was just so powerful. And it's Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez who are the stars in it, and Emilio Estevez, the son, is going to go do this walk. It's been a dream of his to do, and he ends up dying in the process. So his father goes to collect his remains. His father's always been angry, kind of the story you just told, Jeanie. And the father, through a series of circumstances, ends up completing the walk for his son.
While you're breathing there, the movie's called The Way.
The Way, yeah.
And it's after a storm had hit in the Pyrenees, and it's called the Camino de Santiago. It's also called The Way of St. James. Are you back with us, Michael?
I'm here.
Okay.
It just resonates so much energy to just know, the possibility of people who choose to heal, and to watch the changes in lives that otherwise are so rage-filled and so pain-filled, and it's always, of course, somebody else's fault. So it's just such a powerful example. Go see that film, The Way. It's just awesome and amazing. Resonates some things for me.
And someone in the chat room asked how to spell the Emmaus Walk, and it is EMMAUS, Emmaus Walk, and it's not specific to any denomination. I think the Methodists kind of initiate it, but you have to be invited by somebody who has been on the walk to go on the walk, and it's 72 hours, I think. That I may be incorrect on that, but anyway, they spend time. It's taken from when the disciples were on the road from Jerusalem to Emmaus, and Yeshua appeared with them and was walking with them. And at first, they didn't know who he was because their eyes were blind to the truth. And he walked with them and talked with them and everything, and then they realized when he was having dinner with them who he really was. And so it's based on that walk that at first you're blind, and not necessarily physically, but that you don't see truth. And as you go through this, and it's not a physical walk, it's like from classroom to speaker and just different activities that are going on that deepen your spiritual walk, and that by the end of it, that your eyes are opened. And so it's pretty cool. I actually just brought it up on the internet, and it says that it's there was a Catholic movement that started it, and then the Protestants kind of took it over, but it's not based on any particular denomination. It's just a spiritual journey.
Yeah, not based on any particular denomination, including Christian. It's just that there is an awakening process that we can all go through, and there are many ways to go through that awakening. It isn't a religious awakening. It's an awakening to our human beingness. You know, the world specializes in pounding out of us the essence of our human lives. If you just tap into the essence of the newborn child, you know what a human life is. And that human life is what we're designed to live as and to live in. And when we deny and dissociate, as the world teaches us to do, we tend to live in hostility and fear and lose connection with that. And so reopening our eyes, reawakening to that, it's been called born again, it's been given lots of names, and you know, that's the whole idea of waking up to our human beingness once again and pushing out of that, and only that, no matter what happens. And that's what, you know, that just ties right back into, as I said earlier, that first law. The first law, you know, men make laws something to do with the rule of a superior. Somebody's got a big gun and you better obey because they're the law. That's got nothing whatsoever to do with the law. The law is simply how the eternal forces of the universe work. If you know how they work, you get to play with them. You get to work within them. If you don't, then you get damaged. It's just real simple. You know, if you look at the law of gravity, airplanes don't fly by breaking the law of gravity. Airplanes fly by honoring, understanding, and working within the law of gravity. And in exactly the same way, the mind, you know, you go back to the ancient scriptures, they said the Creator is no respecter of persons. Hey, I don't care who you are. If you step off the cliff 2,000 feet down, bones are going to break. That's just the way it works. That's the law. And so if you understand how the law works, you get to work within it. If you don't, then you come into avoidable collision with it. The law is, we talk about breaking the law is never broken. The law never sustains the least fracture. It's we who get broken in our avoidable collisions with law. So the whole basis and foundation of our work together is to understand the laws of the mind, the laws of what we call the body, the laws of relationship, the laws of the universe. And as we understand them and function within them, we get the opportunity to let loose of the inclination or the unconscious genetic propensity to bang into the law and get bruised and beaten. All harm and hurt is a result of violating these laws. You know, you violate the law of the mind, you forget that Rakhma is the gateway for your human life to come in, you lose your human life. Then you function as an hostile, fearful, non-being self. And, you know, the carnage in the world, as Jeanie was just sharing with this gentleman as a kid, he was, you know, one of the byproducts of his father's hostility and pain. And as he's able to work through that, then he's able to be freed from that. And you can bet that he's going to raise children that are much more conscious and much more aware of their human lives than he would have while he was living out of his reaction to his father's pain and hostility. So it's an awesome practical, it's the most practical journey in the world. And it starts when you say to yourself, here I am. I've been through this particular pain 87 different times with 42 different people. I realize that I am the only one that was there every time. Now I'm starting to suspect that maybe my pain is about me and it's not about them. Therefore, I think I'll go to work and heal my pain. The healing of that pain is done through forgiveness. And, of course, the world has taught us through the Greek translations that we just forgive them. We forgive somebody else. Instead of, we change what's going on inside ourselves. You know, perhaps this gentleman you were speaking to on the plane, he may have spent years forgiving his father and his mother and, you know, all the people in his life, but that doesn't change the content of the mind. Forgiveness is the tool with which you go inside the content of your own mind and remove all of the things that block human life. And you stop playing the innocent victim game, you stop blaming others, and you start going, oh, I'm feeling this is mine. How do I remove this? And that's what I'm interested in doing, is removing this. And as you do that, everything changes. It's an awesome journey. So do we have any callers, questions, thoughts? David, do you have any thoughts for us? Are you with us, David?
I am, Michael.
Cool.
One of the thoughts, I had a couple of thoughts around tapping into true essence and the real nature. And I was looking at my thoughts as I was following them was that, as a child, I heard all kinds of messages, and I heard them from a child's mind. And I remember my mother used to say, she used the language, don't say anything at all if you can't say something nice. And there were messages that I heard to count 10 before saying something if I'm feeling angry. So there were plenty of messages that were given to me. It was just that there were lots of other messages as well. And so the simplest thing, and it's always simple, a challenge sometimes when the stress is really up and the emotions and the feelings are there, especially since there's this training and modeling that someone else's and or something outside of me is what causes it. There's the big challenge, at least it's been for me, is to always look at it that way and to be conscious of and aware of that this is my creation. This is what it is that I'm creating. And once I acknowledge that I'm creating this, then I have the opportunity in order to shift and change it. As soon as I fall into the belief that someone or something determines how it is that I feel, then I'm trapped in that mind. Just to make a statement of I take total responsibility for my life, just even making that statement, most people, at least in my experience for myself as well, resonates so many things that how do I get to that particular place and understanding? So that's what the support here is for, the radio station and the work that you've created. And what we're here to do is to support people in taking it to another level, a higher understanding, and that comes through the willingness of doing the work each day. So that's my thoughts.
Michael, we do have a caller. However, first there was one comment in the chat room that I'd like for us to expand on, and they said that it's important to get into the feeling nature of the gut, the solar plexus, and that's why breathing is so important. And I put in there it's more than feeling. Feelings can be false. And one of the things I shared with our host that's keeping us here the next couple of weeks, we were talking about breathing. She was actually at the breath workshop Saturday. And I said several years ago, I took a youth group to a 4-day weekend convention thing, and there was a Jewish man that was there, and he was speaking. And he said that in their native language that the name of God was really not pronounceable, that it was like the breath. And then he went on to say, so when we are born, are we alive because we have taken our first breath or because we first spoke God's name? And when we die, is it because we take our last breath or because we quit speaking God's name? The scriptures say that God breathed into man the breath of life. Every breath we take is breathing into our source, breathing into God, which is love. And when we stop the breathing or we subventilate, we're cutting off that source, and we're actually creating our own physical demise. So it's spiritual, physical, and mental, but the breath is more than just feeling. Do you want to expand on that? And then we do have a caller. Your mute button's still on, babe. We can't hear you,
Okay,
Michael.
okay, I'm back. Excuse me, my mute button was on. Thank you for reminding me. And so, the feelings are something that, if we're really attuned to them, come from our true being. Emotions come from the mind, and oftentimes those two things get confused. So emotions are shadows of thoughts. And when you recognize that, and there's some form of hostility or fear, you know that your thoughts are off base, your creative process is off base, and that you're stuck in a place of projection. And so I always advise people, never do what you feel like doing. Never do what your emotional nature tells you to do. Have a standard, a set of principles by which you operate. And then, and of course nobody's perfect at it, but to the best of your ability, then operate by those principles. You just don't go outside of what those principles are. If you, say for instance, as a personal code, you choose to adapt the commitment that we have on our website for relationships, then in that commitment it says, I'll speak to you lovingly, gently, respectfully. So now, of course, to the best of our ability. If I move out of loving, gentle, respectful speech, then I'm following feelings that are based, or emotions that are based in non-being, are based in thoughts that are off base, off the target for a human life. So if I want to get back on track, then I'm going to live according to my commitment, and if I can't speak words, and of course we're all to some degree non-human, and so we can get lost in this. And, the culture says, oh, well, you're only human. No, that's not humanness to get lost. It is non-humanness that takes over. And so to be restored to our true human lives and to function out of a set of principles, to me, becomes one of the biggest keys in the whole process. And that's what we're here to support you in. So any form of hostility or fear, stop, quiet, say nothing, get back on track, get back to where you are in harmony with the first law. You're living in Rakhma. So that would be my input there. Is that kind of along the lines of what you're thinking, sweetie?
Yes, and they actually also said, thank you, Michael, that's really what I meant, not just off-the-cuff emotions. So,
yeah.
Very
Cool.
good. Well, let's take our caller. It's area code 828. You're on the air.
Hello, Jeanie, Michael, Tim, David. This is Magda.
Neighbor?
Yeah, neighbor down here in Missouri, close to Heartland. And I would love to invite you, Michael, to explain to the listening folks what happened with you when you were just talking about the movie. And it sounded to me that very strong feelings and or emotions came up for you, and what it sounded like you were doing was taking the time to breathe. And if that's what was happening, can you explain that? Because I think that's a wonderful tool, and this is a good example that you just had.
Absolutely. I'd be delighted to share that. And as I contemplated the conversation that Jeanie had with this gentleman on the airplane, and as I thought about the movie The Way, and we've been working for some 45 years to bring healing to every mind, heart, and being on planet Earth, to bring these tools forward. And it always touches an overwhelming spot of joy, and along with that come tears for me when I see that kind of healing occurring, because I know that we have the ability to live in that state continuously. And so that was what was going on for me. It's in that space of overwhelming gratitude for the fact that it's being demonstrated. The fact that anybody can go and watch this film that shows this awesome and powerful healing that shows the father as and the young man as a kid, and he's always rebellious. He's always going to do his own thing, and his father knows how he should run his son's life, and is very angry because it doesn't happen. And of course, I wonder how much of their lives is reflected in that film. But it's just so powerful, and to watch that healing and to see how the father, it's like the universe goads him into making this walk, and as he makes this walk, which his son was going to make, and it's a real walk. It's one you can go to the Pyrenees Mountains and make, and you basically they give you a passport at the beginning of the walk, and in order to document that you've done the walk, you get a stamp at each way stop along the way, different restaurants, hotels, those sorts of things, that you get stamps in your passport, and then when you get to the other end, you get a certificate that you've made that walk. And so, and there's a really, well, I won't give the ending away, but it's really cool around the certificate and that he gets, and the symbology of the healing that occurred for him on that walk is just, it's awesome. It's just awesome. So thank you for that question, and as I tap into it again, I have to breathe and just I see the image of him standing as he's getting this certificate, and what a powerful scene it is, and how powerfully symbolic it is of his relationship with his son and the healing that occurs there.
Mhm. And I think it's a great example of being able to use the breathing in our everyday lives, because you just did it. And so we don't have to wait until we have a still point breathing session. We don't have to set aside an hour or whatever it is. It's a tool we can use all the time. So it was a great example. Thank you.
Every day. Yeah, and to heal at depth, that breath is such a huge key in the process. So share it a little bit with us, for those who may not know it. This is Magda of Magda and Chuck, who just bought a 37-acre piece of property right next door to Heartland, this awesome house and piece of property. So how go the renovations and the work that you're doing?
We haven't actually started on the finishing of the renovations that were started by the previous owner. We've been working on the unpacking, number one, and while I work on that, Chuck, and sometimes myself as well, have been out there working on getting the garden ready. So we've been getting a lot of mushroom compost and putting down cardboard to kill the weeds, and putting the mushroom compost on top of that to get seasoned, so it'll be ready to plant in, when the warm weather comes. And
cool.
Chuck's been organizing his workshop out there, and so it's just getting the tractor ready and for its jobs, which are going to be many. We inherited a lovely tractor with the property, but it wasn't working, so that's in process right now. And I wish it was 37, but it's only 29 acres. Only. I'm so happy.
It'll probably keep you busy anyway.
Yeah, it's enough to keep us busy. So everything is proceeding, yep. And I'm just delighted to be here and be so close to Heartland, and delighted with you being here in my ear every day, every 5 days a week at least. Thank you. It's wonderful.
Well, we are delighted to have the opportunity to have this show and to be sharing the tools globally. I don't know who's on the show today, but we've had people from Asia and Europe and just this community that's developing. It's interesting, in the Aramaic language, the words that the Greeks translate as the kingdom of God literally translates the community of love. And what we're looking to do is to create, and what we've worked on for the last 45 years. And, you can go to our website, whyagain.com, and you can download the book in, of course, English, German, Russian, Spanish, Farsi. The book is available in Swedish. The publisher wouldn't let us put it on the website in Swedish. There's someone working on a Thai translation. There's someone working on an Italian. Someone working on a Spanish translation, a Brazilian Portuguese, and a gentleman in Palestine, an attorney, actually working on the Arabic translation. So, this community of love is expanding globally every day, and we appreciate everybody's support in introducing others to the show, introducing others to the work, introducing others to the use of the tools, and moving it forward on the planet. Our guest being out here, we just finished a week in Sarasota at the Unity Church, and next week in 2 weeks, you can go to the website to get the schedules. We'll be at Harmony Spiritual Center in Tampa doing a full week of workshops, and we'll be in Ocala for a week. We'll have a little bit of time free, and then we'll be in Boca Raton, Florida. We're working on a couple of other schedules. If anybody from Florida is listening and has a venue for us to present in, we do have some additional time still available. And basically what we're committed to is just everything that it takes to take this and create critical mass to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. So we appreciate everybody's support in doing it.
And we have a 9-day intensive in Florida.
Yay.
Well, that's right.
And I want to, for the rest of the world, represent and say thank you for making your tools available. And most of your workshops that you present in the evenings are available for free. And yes, there are some that for the longer intensives that you can pay for, and they're wonderful. They're so worth it. But you provide so much for free. It's just such a gift to the world. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And, of course, everybody who's listening to the show, we invite you to support us being able to do that. Jeanie and I don't do that because we're independently wealthy or we have some big corporation behind us. Basically, everything we have is dedicated to bringing this work of Yeshua forward to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. If you want to assist and support us in doing that, of course, our product sales, intensives, you can go to our website. There's a catalog, DVDs, CDs of all the workshops that we refer to. Order them, or you can just go to the website and there's a donate button and you can donate to support us. Moving forward, when we travel like this, our workshops are done free and we pay our own expenses. So you can help us to defray those costs by and keep this radio show going and keep our website operational. And accolades to Jeanie, who had never touched a website before we met and dug in and with that genius brain of hers figured out how to make it work. And the website, I've had several people actually, Jeanie, in the last week who come to me and said that it's so awesome. And so thank you to everyone. And by the way, tonight we'll be at Unity. We're actually going to have dinner at a place called Simon's at 5 o'clock in Boca Raton, in Sarasota. Simon's in Sarasota on Highway 41. Come and join us for dinner around 5 o'clock. And then at 7 we're going to do a Mind Shifter support group and work on worksheets together. So have the best year yet of your eternal life. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.